Dez is too much of a risk. I mean, when you've heard these reports of his off-the-field issues, it just doesn't seem worth it. All right, we'll be right back talking some SEC football. And Bill Cosby's in the news, so that'll be interesting. Be right back here on One Take Podcast Nation, The Jake Mitchell Show. Be sure to tweet at The Jake Mitchell, email The Jake Mitchell Show at yahoo.com. Be right back after this.
You're tuned in to a One Take
Podcast Production.
Back. Jake Mitchell Show. One Take Podcast Nation. On a Monday morning. Man. It's early. Like I said, be sure to tweet the show at The Jake Mitchell. Email The Jake Mitchell Show at yahoo.com. So, I wrote an article for the AOSN.com. Check it out, it's a great site. About the SEC. Excuse me. And it was it started as a, 10 takeaways from SEC Media Days article. And then it kind of turned into, instead of takeaways from SEC Media Days, it was more analysis of and speculation. Because really, I mean, when you watch these press conferences, any press conference when it comes to sports, you don't really get that much. Now, media days you get more, but there's still, it's sometimes you're reaching for stuff. So I wrote more so about storylines that, that I noticed at SEC Media Days that we will see branch out into the season and how they will unfold. So we'll kind of go through those and talk about them. And if you want to react, email The Jake Mitchell Show at yahoo.com or tweet at The Jake Mitchell. So the first point I made was, is this even the best conference in college football? Is the SEC the best conference? Because that's what, it's been true for the 7 in a row that the SEC won. But is that changing? Now, at this point in time, yes, the SEC is the best conference in college football. You've got Alabama, you've got Auburn, you've got Georgia, you've got the Mississippi schools who were great last year. Mississippi State is going to drop off, I feel like. Ole Miss might still be there. But it's the best conference in college football. Now, it's not dominant like it was, because the best team in college football is Ohio State. I think they're going to win the national championship this year. But when you look at the SEC, you can see that it's kind of dropped off, because you've got South Carolina, who is not as good as they were 3 years ago. Georgia seems to always lose a game, so even saying Georgia earlier, I was a bit hesitant because they always blow something. They always have a chance to win a big game that they just shoot themselves in the foot. Last year against Georgia Tech, when Rick called the timeout. So, the SEC does have some potential, though, because even though it's down, you've got Auburn, who I think in Gus Malzahn's third year is going to start to solidify themselves as a SEC powerhouse. You've got Arkansas and Tennessee, two teams that we can't say that they're positives yet because they haven't shown us anything. But you can say that they have a lot of potential to be great teams. I think Arkansas, when you look at that offensive line and that running game, they've got a chance to be really good. That's a point that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Tennessee, Josh Dobbs, we'll see if he can come in and, in his first season as the full-time quarterback, see if he can make an impact and lead this team through an SEC schedule where Butch Jones has kind of turned the momentum around in Knoxville after Lane Kiffin and Derek Dooley. But yeah, so the SEC, I think, best conference, not most dominant, and they need to pick it up because the Pac-12 and maybe the Big Ten, because when you look at the Big Ten, I know it sounds crazy at first, but Ohio State, best team in college football. Michigan, now that Harbaugh's there, maybe not this year, but in the next few years, they could be really good. Michigan State, Mike D'Antonio's a great coach. So, and Penn State, James Franklin from who was at Vanderbilt a few years ago. So those Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State, Penn State, 4 teams. If those 4 teams alone become great, then, 4 powerhouse teams in the top 25 is kind of what the SEC did for a little bit. Because you had your Alabama, you had your LSU. You had your, Georgia coming out of the East. So yeah, the Pac-12 and the Big Ten have a great chance of catching up at some point. But for now, I'm gonna stick with the SEC. I think the SEC is the best conference in college football. You've got the SEC, the Pac-12, the Big Ten. Those are the top 3. And then you've got the drop-off, which is the ACC. Well, okay, the Big 12. I forgot about the Big 12. They're up there too. But within the Power 5, there's the 4. There's the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, and then there's the ACC, because the ACC is a whole step down from the other 4 conferences. The other thing the second point that I made was that, this is something we'd known was going to happen, was that our first SEC Media Days without Commissioner Mike Slive, who for so long was one of the top, most influential men in college football. Right up there with, in the SEC power rankings, most powerful men. You always had Mike Slive at the top, Paul Feinbaum up there somewhere. So Mike Slive is, as the commissioner, he's been a fixture in the SEC. So it was weird to see a new commissioner addressing SEC Media Days in Greg Sankey. I mean, he quoted Bob Dylan instead of Slive used to quote philosophers. But I mean, these press conferences, like I said earlier, when you look at these press conferences, there's really not much to take out of them. A lot of it's just political correctness and, saying the right things and not upsetting anybody. He stated the importance of the core, the Southeast, the communities of these 14 schools, instead of, branching out internationally and all that stuff, taking these promotional opportunities. Because really the core it's the Southeast. That's where people are passionate about the SEC. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't like something big and groundbreaking. It was just interesting to see a new commissioner at the top. Of the SEC. Man, having some internet issues here. Come on. Like I said, if you want to tweet the show, it's at @TheJakeMitchell. And if you want to email, it's thejakemitchellshow@yahoo.com. Please be sure and contact the show. I love to interact with you guys. Love to get your opinions. Love for you to hate on me for saying something bad about your team. All right, number 3, got it loaded. This won't be a normal thing, the whole internet, and I'm in a large room right now, so there's probably an echo. This is temporary. I know, first episode, bad, stumbling out of the starting gate technologically, but it'll get straightened out. So thanks for sticking with me despite internet issues, and I'm sure there's an echo. There's a fan going on the other side of the room. Okay, got it loaded. So number 3, which I think is this one's pivotal to the playoff picture, and that is, can Will Muschamp make an impact at Auburn? Because Auburn's been this great offensive team for the last 2 years now. Malzahn's first year was that power run game with Trey Mason, where they just, one of the great offenses I've ever seen. Last year, a little bit back down to earth, but still very productive with Cameron Artis-Payne. This year, now that Nick Marshall is gone, Jeremy Johnson's going to be the quarterback. And I think, the offense will be a little bit more pass-oriented. They'll throw the ball a little bit more. But I still think that Auburn offensively is going to be productive. They're going to be consistent. They're going to be a good team. Now,